So this is the parable of trying to put a new cloth into an old garment. And so this parable actually goes right along with the next one that goes like right after this. And so I'm going to try to do these two videos back to back. I mean, they're still going to be two separate videos, but I think the next parable right after kind of explains it a lot better. But so anyways, Matthew 9, this is the first account. Matthew 9, verse 16. No man putteth a piece of new cloth onto an old garment. Right, so the garment is your righteousness. Okay, and so that old garment, it's when you're back in, right, the filthiness of doing pagan idolatry, right, breaking God's 10 commandments. For that which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Right, that so the terror is going to be made worse. And actually, I'll point out the other accounts, but I'm not going to read them. Right, so you got Mark 2 verse 21, and then Luke 5 verse 36. They say basically the same thing. Right, but so you can't take, like, say you have this old garment where you, with this, like, you're doing pagan idolatry. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna start keeping the Sabbath and continue to do, like, say, idolatry." Right? It doesn't work like that. Um, because then this is the problem, right? You start keeping the commandments, and then you turn back to, like, the pollutions of the world, right? And then it becomes worse, right, than it was before, right? Because then you receive seven more spirits, right? You gotta get that completely new garments, right? You have to put on the garments of God's righteousness, right? The 10 commandments, right? And the rainbow covenants, right? So that you'll, like, be preserved, right? So then you have your robe made white, right? And so this is actually what happens uh, to these people that have to go through great tribulation because they didn't make the robe completely white, right? Since they were spotted and stuff like that, right? They had their garments spotted with the flesh, right? This is what Jude says, right? These people that rebuke them, they hate even the garments spotted with the flesh. The flesh is an idiom for the sacrificial law, which you learn in Galatians 3 and Romans chapter 8, um, and maybe Galatians 2 as well. But so these people, they rebuke them because they don't want, because it's spotted, right? They need to just get a completely new garment, right? Don't have the garment of the Christian self-righteousness, right, where they're doing pagan idolatry and all that stuff, but yet they say don't smoke, don't drink, and also not having the fleshly garment of doing God's feasts and trying to do the sacrificial law, wearing tassels and all that stuff, because that's not God's righteousness. We learn God's righteousness in Deuteronomy 6 and verse 25, right? And it'll be our righteousness if we observe to do all of his commandments, right? His 10 commandments, because that's what was talked about in the verse prior, right? So there's two covenants promised: the rainbow covenant, eating clean, and then the 10 commandments, where that's the righteousness, the garment that you have to put on.